All right.
Yep. Dun, 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 dun. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. My guest today has been on the boat. We were just talking about the cruise. He's gonna be on the Holistic Holiday at Sea cruise. He's been on the show before. He's back by popular demand. His name is Dr. Robert Breakey, and today he's going to be talking about Dr. Bob's 8 keys to health and success. Please welcome him back to the show. You got me thinking about the boat now. So that's amazing that you're going on the cruise. Oh, you're not your first time on the cruise, but your first time as a speaker. Congratulations. That's a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, so my wife and I love cruises, and this will be a good chance. We went last year. It's a great chance to network with like-minded people, get some good food, and visit some beaches. Yes, should be lots of fun. I was saying before we started too, it was your show about 3 years ago that inspired me to look into it. I had one of the folks who was helping organize the cruise on, and I know that's what happens is you do these things. It inspires people of all walks of life to do things related to health and vitality. So thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. What was your favorite part about the cruise last year?
A lot of it was networking with great people. We had Michael Greger, Michael Clapper, Dean and Aisha Shirzai, Ocean Robbins, I'm sure familiar names to many of the people who watch your show. And we got to have lunch and breakfast with them. We got to see their amazing talks. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was fun being on the beaches and the ocean and the tour excursions in Belize and all that too. But I just love health and learning and networking with people who are like-minded. So to me, that was the favorite part.
Nice. Well, do you ever go to any of the conferences like Plantrition or ACLM?
Absolutely. I'm going to ACLM later this month in Orlando. And a lot of our favorite folks will be there, of course, too. Michael Greger's speaking. I'm speaking on part of a panel discussion. We'll have Ted Barnett, and that's a lot of fun too. So I do go to those PPOD meetings. We're having one this weekend. I'm speaking Sunday at the virtual PPOD meeting, for plant-based prevention of disease conference, mostly for health professionals, but anybody can come. So that'll be fun. And yes, conferences. It's a lot of fun to learn and to keep up to date, and new information is coming out all the time. Did you read Dr. Greger's book, How Not to Age?
Absolutely. Well, I didn't read it. I listened to it. I have it, but
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
like to listen instead of that.
Yes. It's pretty dense. He really kind of gets into a lot of great information. But I think that's what people like you and I do for fun, right? Is learning more about how we can bring health to ourselves and others.
Yeah. Did you like the food on the cruise? Were you able to get it the way you like it?
It was very good, yes. It was one of the older ships, and since they found that they have upgraded for both this year and next year to a new ship, and I hear it's even better now. So yes, we thought it was good, and we're hoping now it'll go from good to great.
Nice. So in case people didn't see the last time you were on this show, tell us a little bit about who Dr. Bob Breakey is.
Yes, thank you. So I've been a lifestyle and family medicine physician here in Ann Arbor for 39 years now. And back in medical school in 1977, I read a book called Diet for a Small Planet by Francis Moore Lappé. It really inspired me. I mean, it was the 70s. It was Earth Day was invented, the bottle bills, everything was kind of coming into the importance of taking care of our environment. And it really just spoke to me about how inefficient it is first to feed food to animals. And then not only that, the extra chemicals we put in the environment, topsoil erosion, water use, all added up to, I'm not sure I want to be a part of this. And then I read a book called Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, and discovered the abhorrent conditions on our animal factory farms, which have only gotten worse in the last 40 years. And I said the only remaining piece was, well, what about me? Is this necessary for my nutrition? And being in medical school, there was a slant towards, yes, animal protein's good. You need dairy for calcium, blah, 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 blah. So I was skeptical that it was going to work. But the more I delved into it, even back then, there was overwhelming evidence that this was better for the planet, better for the animals, and better for me, and ultimately better for my patients. So I kept reading, learning, studying, and have been promoting health and healthy living as you have now for all this time. And that's why it's a pleasure to be on your show and share with your guests my latest learnings, answer their questions. I got to say, too, it's exciting because as of May, I have gone full-time lifestyle medicine. I was doing family medicine of all types, all comers. And I decided, I'm getting closer to where it's time to wind down. Instead of 1,500 patients now, I'll have a panel of 300 patients, all with an interest in this form. And we also have an affiliated health coach, exercise physiologist, plant-based nutritionist. So here in Michigan now, both in Southeast Michigan for patients who want to come see me, and statewide for those who want to come virtual. I'm a lifestyle medicine physician full-time now.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Are there a
Yeah.
lot of plant-based doctors or even people in Michigan in general?
I don't know if you know Paul Chaplin. You probably know
sure
Paul
do.
Chaplin and Joel Kahn. They started the plant-based nutrition support group right here in Southeast Michigan. So we have had a large number of people. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, Neil Barnard came and spoke live to over 400 of us in Birmingham, Michigan. So yes, there's a big group here of people with an interest and following. And then, docs like me and the 8 others in my medical group who have inspired to become certified with the ACLM have all been helping people. So yes, we have a hot spot for healthy eating and good nutrition here in Southeast Michigan. But your main question, there is still a significant shortage of lifestyle medicine physicians. The medical model is still centered mainly around disease management rather than prevention and reversal. You and I and many others are working to change that. And I would say it's changing gradually, but not as fast as we would hope.
Great, thanks. So what are you going to present to us today?
Oh, let's back in when I was first starting practice in 1985. I found I was saying the same thing over and over to patients about, hey, eat healthy, exercise, take good care of yourself. And rather than spending 10 minutes on every visit saying the same thing, I developed my handout called Dr. Bob's 8 Keys for Health and Success. And I purposely put both in there. They tend to travel together. Healthy people are more successful, and more successful people want to be healthy so they can enjoy the fruits of their labors. So I put these down and I've shared it with all thousands of my patients over the years. And so I put it into a talk and have pulled it together to share with your audience today. Let me see if I can pull up the share screen here. Do you see my slide
Yes,
here? For
I
health
do.
and success?
Just
Okay.
Yeah, perfect now.
There's me out sailing on the up near Henry Island, up near south of Seattle, or I'm sorry, north of Seattle, up sort of in your area of the country, and that was lots of fun. But this is my daughter back in 1989. And again, it was about that time that I put my health and success into writing for my people. And if I can just walk through these with you, and then of course we'll have time for questions and discussion too. But the 8 keys are: eat for health, drink water, avoid cow's milk, eat fiber, be active, take care of your environment, sleep well, and take time for relax and play. You notice that these are similar to what American College of Lifestyle Medicine has come up with their pillars in 2004. And they're not magic. These are what lifestyle medicine is about. It's taking good care of yourself. Number 1 is eat for health, and I put down choose abundant vegetables, whole grains, fruits, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds. I encourage people to include 1 or 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed daily for the healthy omega-3s. And then number 1 goes on to say minimize and ideally eliminate animal foods, that is meat, dairy, and eggs, and minimize the refined sugar, salt, and oils, and other processed foods. By filling your pantry with these health-supporting foods, choosing to eat when you're hungry, and finding foods that you love and also love you back, you'll have great nutritional value and better health. We do also, of course, remind people to take their B12, 100 micrograms daily, or 1,000 if over 65, just because absorption is more tenuous. But this is what leads to healthy eating. The reason for this is clear, and the reason this is number one is that back in the 90s, tobacco was the leading cause of death and disability in our country. And as of 2018, the standard American diet has passed this now as the leading cause of death and disability in our country. So focus on nutrition, as you do, is really critical for people who are looking for good health. And I divide foods into four categories: animal on the left, plant on the right, unprocessed and processed. And you get the idea. Down here is processed animal foods like hot dogs, cheese, and chicken McNuggets. Up here, kind of similar to the way nature presented it to us, but from animal source. Down here, foods that are derived from plants, but commonly with a lot of goodness and fiber taken away and a lot of fat, salt, and sugar added. And up here, fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans. The dividing line between healthy and not healthy is not so much, hey, I only eat on the right, I'm vegan. That's good, but you could be vegan eating down in the right lower corner with potato chips, Captain Crunch, French fries, Oreos, and Coca-Cola. Or I'm paleo, I don't eat any processed foods. Well, good for you, but the foods in the upper left there are high in saturated fat, cholesterol, devoid of fiber and phytonutrients. And we'll come to that here as we kind of think about what makes a food health supporting. If you look at it, it's pretty straightforward. Desirable characteristics of healthy food include those that are rich in antioxidants, high in fiber, that are alkaline, free of cholesterol, they're anti-inflammatory, rich in phytonutrients, and balanced macronutrients. So I think most people realize that unprocessed foods are the best, but the plant versus animal is still some confusion. But if you look at these along these lines, antioxidants are very rich in plant foods, especially fruits and vegetables, but all plant foods contain an average of over 1,000 units, whereas animal less than 18. So very clear that we've got a big 5-star and a big X over here on animal. Fiber only occurs in plant foods. I'm going to come back to this in point number 3, but it does not occur at all in animal foods. So we'll put an X over here. Alkaline fruits and vegetables in particular are alkalinizing when they hit the system. Animal foods, because of the high cysteine and methionine, metabolize to sulfuric acid and put a strain on the kidneys. So we've got another big advantage here for plant foods. Cholesterol only occurs in animal foods. All plant foods are naturally cholesterol free, and especially the fatty animal foods like cheese, red meats are in large amounts of cholesterol, which, contrary to some reports from industry-sponsored studies, really does matter. Dietary cholesterol translates to serum cholesterol, translates to more heart disease and strokes. Anti-inflammatory is getting more attention now. Plant foods, because of thousands of phytonutrients, antioxidants, and fiber, are anti-inflammatory. Animal foods, quite the opposite. They actually induce inflammation. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Phytonutrients, phyto means plant, and these mean they only occur in plants. And these are tens of thousands of nutrients that, but you don't die without them, but you don't have health without them either. The plant foods like lycopene in tomatoes, bioflavonoids in citrus, are rich in phytonutrients and none in animal foods. And then finally, balanced macronutrients, and we'll come back to this as well, but protein, fats, and carbs should be about 80% unrefined carbs, 10% fat and protein, and animal foods are way unbalanced with no unrefined carbs. So we start to see a pattern here that these desirable characteristics really are rich and evident in the plant foods and not in the animal foods. So in summary, health supporting, yes, 5-star, and not so much for your animal foods. I should say not so much, but quite the opposite, health degrading. So we come to the whole food plant-based diet as my point number one. And this is very consistent again with what the American College of Lifestyle Medicine now puts forth as a reversal diet, whole food plant-based diet with half fruits and vegetables, upper quarter plant proteins, and a quarter whole grains on the side. A quick overview too of calorie density and nutrient density. This again is from ACLM. You see foods up in the upper part there in green, with vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans being low in calorie density, but high in nutrient value. Whereas the opposite down below, especially processed foods, junk foods, butter and oils on the bottom at 40-fold more calorie dense than vegetables. Let's look at what this means in practical terms. This is commonly what people think of as a healthy American diet when they eat according to the dietary guidelines. And it looks like by volume wise, wow, good, half fruits and vegetables. But if you look at the calories in these, the apple is only 90 calories, the broccoli only 30, whereas 240 for the salmon. So really thinking in terms of percent of calories, the whole food plant-based part, the apple and the broccoli, is only 120, is only 18% of the calories from this meal are from whole food plant-based, even though it appears to be kind of 50 with a glass of milk on the side. If we recast these now, just by the way we usually think in terms of volume or size, you get a little teeny bit of calories for broccoli, a little bit from the apple, and most of all from these foods that are calorie dense but nutrient poor. So I want people to kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking of nutrition. A corollary to this, as we look at calorie density, is what happens if we add just a little cheese sauce to that broccoli? Well, this cheese sauce is commonly made from butter, flour, whole milk, cheddar cheese, and 230 calories compared to 30 for the broccoli. And not only that, but also 18 grams of total fat, 11 grams of the saturated fat, which is the type most pro-inflammatory and related to both cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and heart disease, cholesterol, and large amounts of sodium. So once again, we have taken this perfectly good bowl of broccoli, and not that you can't put we'll come back to that, something else on it, but you've made it only 12% whole food plant-based. Looks like 3/4 broccoli and 1/3 of a cup of cheese sauce, but by calorie density, you have messed up a good food and made a little tiny bit of good with a lot of bad. So this gets even worse. The messing up often cancels out the benefits of whole food plant-based food and drink. For example, coffee contains a unique phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid, and tea contains polyphenols. But even a small amount of cow's milk or half and half to that cancels out the anti-inflammatory effect likely due to the casein in the milk proteins. Milk also undercuts the benefits of both berries and chocolate when added. So I encourage people, when you're thinking of eating healthy whole foods, be careful of, just a little bit of ranch dressing on that salad. It really it doubles the calories even for 1 tablespoon of ranch dressing on a whole pound of vegetables. And much better alternatives are out there. Again, Chef AJ, it's just part of your expertise, but you can make cheese sauce from nutritional yeast, potatoes, carrots, cashews. You can add foods in there that will be healthy and tasty. Coffee and cream are much better. Coffee and tea, just add a little soy milk. Instead of ranch or oil dressing, I just use plain 18-year balsamic. And then instead of ranch or sour cream, dip veggies and hummus. Best if you make your own to leave out the oil. But again, you can make these things that make foods taste great and tasty without adding the challenges. So in summary, on point number one, or key number one, the whole plant foods supply people with the health supporting benefits of great healthy foods. Number two is drink water. Chef AJ, I don't know if at any point you want to, ask a question or break in.
I'm just enjoying the presentation. Thank you. I was going to save the questions for when you're done. And anyone that has questions for Dr. Breakey, please post them in the chat.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So number two is drink water. It's our natural beverage. I tell people that's all any other animal drinks. Makes up 50 to 70% of our bodies. And when I say drink water, I mean not only drink water, but avoid other beverages that are commonly consumed. Alcohol, sugar, fat, artificial ingredients. Maybe on occasion, but these should not be foods. Average American can get 200 to 300, sometimes as many as 500 calories a day from beverages that are not health supporting. They can drag them down. And 500 calories a day is 3,500 a week, is a pound a week of empty calories, a pound of fat, I should say, that it's encouraging just by that calorie count. Which is 50 pounds a year that they've got to either work off or make up somewhere for. Coffee and tea in moderation can be healthy. Just quick the cream and sugar, as we talked about, use a little soy milk. The question of how much water to drink. It is true that at any given time in a snapshot, 20 to 30% of older adults meet the criteria for being dehydrated, increasing the risk for several diseases. In younger folks, they can watch for darker urine as a clue, but in older folks, this is, by older, I mean over 60, is not as reliable. So make sure to drink water even between meals. Since I'm one of those older folks, I got my big water jug here and I go through it every day. Water, water, water. They say we get about 4 cups a day from food, especially if we're eating lots of water-containing foods, fruits, and veggies. But in addition, 4 to 7 cups a day for women. 6 to 11 for men. And the reason the variation there, it depends on your body size, how much extra weight you may be carrying. And you can overdo it. Don't drink too much water, but it's good to drink plenty of water. The next is avoid cow's milk. And I put a whole section just for this because common confusion. Cheese, yogurt, and ice cream have been heavily marketed for their content of protein and calcium, but in reality, these are nature-perfect food for baby cows. They're not a natural component of human or any other adult mammal nutrition. And a majority of the world's population, over 68%, is what we call lactose intolerant. But really what that means is normal human. That's a majority of us. Why would we need to develop or to digest a sugar that's designed for infant mammals after we grow into adulthood? It's more than half fat, high in saturated fat and cholesterol, and 70% of the rest is sugar. A lot of people don't realize that even skim milk is 70% lactose. The milk proteins contribute to allergy, autoimmune disease, chronic kidney disease, osteoporosis, the promotion, especially of breast and prostate cancers. Cow's milk always contains bovine estrogen. People sometimes say, well, I only drink hormone-free, free-range milk. Well, cows have estrogen, and they keep them pregnant to keep them cycling milk production, and that estrogen goes into the milk, so you're always getting hormones along with milk. Most cows these days are also treated with growth stimulants and contain bovine leukemia virus, pus cells, and environmental toxins. In fact, let me key on that. In a second, let me key on one of that last point. Not only that, but many non-dairy alternatives. When I started in 1977, you had to go to the co-op and get the soy milk that wasn't very good tasting. But now, virtually any grocery store, you can get a host of different kind of milk alternatives, and your calcium needs are easily obtained by eating plenty of beans and grains. Don't let the dairy industry propaganda pull you back on that one. This milk ads have been very successful. Maybe people still think that it's healthy for them, but fortunately, milk consumption is way down since the 60s, over 60%, because people are catching on to the fact that it's just propaganda. It's just trying to sell you something that is not healthy. And I could go into a whole talk on milk, but even if it were just this one thing, and that is the bovine leukemia virus, which is in the epithelial cells of infected cows. We now know that the percentage of cows in the United States that are infected by this virus is 100% in those with large herds of 500 or more. which produce the majority of our nation's milk. And for a long time, we thought, well, so what? It's a bovine virus. It's a cow virus that may form leukemia in cows, but it doesn't necessarily cross species and cause trouble in humans, right? Well, until this study. They looked at breast cancer tissue after removal of breast cancer from women who had breast cancer. And they found evidence for the DNA from this bovine leukemia virus stitched into the DNA of 37% of these breast cancers. So think about that. We know that several cancers are related to infections, for example, HPV and cervical cancer, the POC sarcoma in people with HIV. And this is yet another example of a virus commonly present in raw red meat or in dairy products that survives pasteurization, gets into people and may be responsible for as many as 37% of breast cancers. Again, many, many reasons not to drink milk and have dairy products, but even if it were just this, we should be avoiding the dairy. Number 4, health-supporting foods contain dietary fiber, both soluble and insoluble. And in this case, we want to minimize those processed foods, so white rice, pastas, metabolize quickly to sugar and have a high glycemic index and can increase insulin and fat storage, lead eventually to insulin resistance and contributing to diabetes. In contrast, whole grains and beans, much more slowly digested, support healthy bowel bacteria, and we'll come back to that in a second, detoxification and colon health and immune function. So eat a broad variety of foods for the greatest benefits, and think fiber in every bite with avoiding animal and processed foods, animal devoid of fiber entirely, and processed foods with minimal. So to delve into this a little more, because this is critical, when a woman is pregnant, we say she's eating for 2. In reality, we are all the time eating for over 38 trillion in 1. You're the 1, and the 38 trillion are these healthy microorganisms living mostly in your colon, but throughout your body. And if you feed them well, they support immune function, hormone balance, they help to manage toxins, they nourish your colon with what are called short-chain fatty acids, lower inflammation, they actually produce nutrients, signal satiety, so it tells your brain that, oh, we ate too, and they aid in nutrient absorption. People that don't get enough fiber end up with not only colon problems, but systemic inflammation and a great contribution to our obesity epidemic. Because when they're starved, they inflame the colon, they increase the reabsorption of estrogen, and that can have a host of problems from heavy periods to fibroids, breast cancer, increased serum cholesterol, leaky gut, and therefore the risk of autoimmune disease. So what do they eat? Fiber. Fiber is the indigestible part only present in plant foods. The average American only getting 15 grams a day. Our poultry dietary guidelines call for 30 grams, which only 3% of Americans even meet that. But you really should aim for 50, 60 to 100 grams a day. And this is not hard to do by eating whole plant foods. It comes naturally, especially your whole grains and beans are your most fiber-dense forms of these foods. If you look across the board at just what 2,000 calories of a food would look like, again, you're easily meeting that 60 gram by eating whole plant foods, whereas very little with processed and none with olive oil or any animal foods. So starvation or nourishment for your bowels has great effects. And in this slide, you can see that as the amount of fiber in the diet goes up from 15 to 60 grams a day, down goes the incidence of heart disease, breast cancer, diabetes. And it's not just that the fiber itself causes this improved outcomes, it's that it's a marker for healthy whole plant foods. Along with fiber comes the phytonutrients, the complex carbs, the plant-based proteins, the vitamins, minerals, and so we're seeing these benefits from high fiber foods. So in addition, many phytonutrients are attached to the fiber, and they're only released when the fiber is metabolized by your gut bacteria. So refining these to white rice or even juicing fruits and veggies loses much of the fiber, And that's why we say eat the whole food to get the best source of health-supporting phytonutrients. This is ChatGPT-4 definition of phytonutrients. These are natural compounds found in plant foods with antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting properties. They play a crucial role in reducing heart disease, cancer, diabetes, supporting immune function, brain health, and cellular damage. And they have been found to have anti-aging effects. So bottom line, include a broad variety of colorful fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans in your diet, and benefit. Different types of phytonutrients have different health benefits, so consume a broad range. So I think we're beginning to see this is that as these AI programs distill the basis of what we know from nutrition, they're coming up with good advice like this. And I think we'll be seeing a shift more towards more people realizing this rather than the industry propaganda. Many of you know Michael Pollan came up with his famous saying, eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. It's good, but a lot of people consider steak and eggs food. He's really trying to say eat real food. When he says not too much, that means foods that are calorie dense like those, and processed ones you better be careful of. We say eat lots, but of the right things. And when he says mostly plants, well, that's good, but not great. So I simplified it even more to fiber in every bite. And what that means is you're eating foods that naturally contain whole plant foods. So fiber, keep it up. So I noticed that half of them, 1 through 4 of my 8 keys, all relate to things that you're either eating or drinking. And that's on purpose. I see this as really the cornerstone to health, but that doesn't decrease the importance of these next 4. Being active through whatever gets you moving, play and make it fun, aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week, and 30 minutes, 5 or more days a week. And even better is 300 minutes a week of moderate exercise or 150 minutes of vigorous exercise. Use things you like, incorporate into your day, like taking the stairs, parking further away. For different people, it's different things. This is me at age 60, 10 feet above the Pacific Ocean on what's called a flyboard. I love to be adventurous.
That's amazing.
Isn't this great?
I mean, they got the picture like that. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, the guy on the wave runner was there sending those jets up, and you get like 3,000 gallons a minute. It takes a lot of balance. It's the first time I'd ever done it. He said I did really well, but I love to be adventurous. Now, my wife was safely on the beach at this time, to each their own. But the point is, without staying active and developing your balance, your endurance, your strength, you're not going to be able to do what you love to do. And maybe that's as simple as going for a walk with the grandkids or playing some pickleball. Maybe it's doing what I do here on the ocean. But stay active in order to be able to be active well into your elder years. Many benefits to control weight, reversing chronic conditions, improving mood and energy, better sleep, sex life, and make it fun and social. So stay active to be able to stay active. Here's those recommendations in American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and many recommend the mixing it up some with those minutes to strength training, endurance training, some balance, yoga, and others. And set specific and attainable goals for yourself and have fun with it. Movement should be fun. Next is your environment, and that's avoid poisons and toxins. We've talked about some of the contaminants in food. Obviously, not smoking anything, recreational drugs. Eat organic when practical, but don't let that get in the way of eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, even if they're conventional. The amounts are much smaller there than they are as you eat higher in the food chain. And then I like a solid carbon water filter to remove pesticides and other toxins from your environment. It really does make a difference how you surround yourself and what you put in your body. Alcohol too, we don't need to cover smoking, that's obvious, but many people haven't got the most recent memo that alcohol really does not have any health benefits and affects all of these symptoms, increasing significantly the risk of breast cancer, liver disease, brain health, bones, and almost everything. Again, it's not all or nothing. None of this is all or nothing, but the point is the less the better. Next is sleep, and this is commonly underrated. We kind of think of sleep as a waste of time, but nothing could be further from the truth. We evolved over millions of years to require this sleep and require it in a big way. Without sleep, we're not going to be able to perform. And quality sleep depends on good sleep hygiene principles, like a wind down routine an hour before bed without TV or internet. Make it a regular rising time, regular bedtime. Avoid nicotine and alcohol, limit caffeine to the morning. Don't use your bed for other things like TV or reading exciting books that'll keep you awake. Associate it with sleep. Limit your naps and control your environment. Improve your concentration, lower your risk of disease through good sleep. And by the way, when you sleep better, you do better on the other pillars as well. Make better eating decisions. You're more able to exercise. You feel up to making social connections. You do better with everything with a good night's sleep. So plan for it. As I say, kind of especially for this one, the synergies are critical. The opposite is also true. If you don't eat well, you don't sleep well. If you're not exercising, it's hard to get a good night's sleep. Substances commonly interfere with sleep, especially alcohol. Some people take a nightcap to help sleep, but that interferes with sleep quality, although it might have a sedative effect at first. Later in the night, your sleep architecture is not as good. Managing stress and developing healthy relationships also can improve your ability to get a good night's sleep. Here's some more resources, and I think you're recording this. I don't want to take too much time here, but people can always go back and look. I love this book, Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. It's not just why we sleep, but how you too can get a better night's sleep. So here's some good sleep resources. And then last is make time to play, relax, and connect with others. Stress is a part of life, but by managing, by finding balance, by prioritizing, and setting goals that will be health supporting, you have more time for friends, family, and it actually supports your health in many ways. We know that chronic loneliness, for example, significantly increases the risk of stroke in middle-aged adults, heart disease, high blood pressure, anxiety, and mood disorders. So develop and plan for and bring those relationships into your life. It's not only makes life more fun and fulfilling, but it improves your overall health. Some ideas to do so or to volunteer, get out there, start a gratitude journal, connect with a community resource center, find online or other groups. Many people find religious or spiritual groups supporting. Volunteer at an animal shelter, go to sporting events, join some classes, help support community events or nonprofits, attend celebrations. Take a course at your college. You'll meet like-minded people and find some value there and increase social connections at work. This is really what really is purpose and meaning, and it helps us to perform better on the other pillars as well. Here's some additional resources for the social connection pillar, and many can be very helpful for people to gain this part of help in life. After I go through the 8 keys, my handout also then gives additional resources. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, nutritionfacts.org, Forks Over Knives, PPNSG will be familiar organizations for many of your viewers, I'm sure. Rochester Lifestyle Medicine, all are places where people can get additional info. If people want to just take a screenshot of this later, you can take your phone and kind of go to some of these different websites and explore what's out there. I did mention at the beginning down in the lower right corner that Peapod is having our next virtual conference this Sunday. I'll be speaking there on a separate topic. So if you like this, I can give you some more updates on my top 10 things for plant-based nutrition there. Or maybe CFJJ will have me back for that sometime in the future. But look up some of these organizations. You'll find a wealth of support, assistance, and like-minded friends and family. Dr. Gregor's especially helpful, nutritionfacts.org. In that search bar, you can put in almost any topic from cholesterol to obesity to gallstones and a number of evidence-based videos without conflict of interest. He's not selling anything or any corporate sponsorship. It's just the science. And then I always encourage people, especially at the start, to watch Forks Over Knives, Game Changers, Food Choices, What the Health. These can help to solidify your why. Once you see what's possible, it makes it easier to be able to stick with what you know you want to do. And then again, I'll let you go through these. Dr. Greger's book, How Not to Die, is one of my favorite. And his newer books, How Not to Diet and How Not to Age, are also great resources. My virtual seminars down there in the toward the bottom there, which I put on my 8 Keys handout for people too. Some similarities to this one. This is a next step beyond that. But if you want my basic class, I'm on YouTube, and you can. By the way, I don't have a YouTube channel or make any money. I just do these talks and people post them. So it's one of those things that I like, spreading health. So bottom line, eat as if your life and your health and your life depend on it, because they do. And the analogy I give here is, I think we can all understand that a tree on the left there, growing in healthy, uncompacted soil with moisture and nutrients, grows healthy and strong, whereas the opposite is true on the right. And if you translate that to a human being on the left side, a whole food, plant-based lifestyle with some daily exercise, balancing your stresses, developing connections, leads to an internal environment that's rich in antioxidants, phytonutrients. It's alkalinizing, leading to strong blood flow at the trunk of the tree there, and low inflammation, healthy organs, and a great life. In contrast, most people live with the roots down in the lower right side, with processed and animal foods, sedentary isolation, chronic stress, leading to an environment that leads to ischemia, which is low blood flow to many organs, systemic inflammation, organ dysfunction, and then they wonder why they don't feel good, with fatigue, chronic pain, depression, diabetes, heart disease. Well, it's all down at the roots there, and good news, it's your choice. Those are things over which you have control. Well, the genetics, your environment only play a relatively small role compared to things you do have control over. So go forth and be healthy. This is my crew, my grandkids and daughters. This is a lot of what I do this for. It's not only help the earth, but to be able to have a better future for them and all that they represent. Here's the info on my new practice. Again, for those in Michigan, if you're interested in looking at a lifestyle medicine primary care practice, it is a membership-based one. Insurance doesn't cover for the longer visits, the deep dive, the root cause assessment, and the team-based approach that we have. But the many people who are in our practice greatly appreciate us having this kind of approach. So if your friends from Michigan are interested, let me know and look me up. And then last story is Alice. I came into my exam room, I was in my office about 3 years ago. Chef AJ, maybe I told this story last time to your folks because I love it. But those who are listening for the first time, I came into my office and my medical assistant said, well, the lady in room 9, she just wants to say goodbye. She's here for medical wellness. And I said, well, excuse me? And she said, well, she's healthy, not sure she really needs to be here. Medicare Wellness wants to say goodbye. I said, never mind, I'll figure it out. So I walk into room 9 and up stands Alice, and she says, Dr. Breakey, I'm moving up north to Traverse City, so I won't be seeing you anymore. But I just want to thank you. I said, Alice, what I do? She said, well, 30 years ago, you inspired me to go plant-based in my eating and take good care of myself. And look at me now. I'm 68 years old. I only feel 40. I'm normal weight. I've got no medications or health problems. She said, you gave me a better life. I'm like, wow, Alice, thank you. I appreciate that, but you did the heavy lifting. You learned how to cook differently. You stood up to relatives who said you were going to die of protein malnutrition. You made it through holidays. You started working out. You did this, really. She said, well, I wouldn't have done it without your inspiration. I said, okay, joint credit for your better life. We hugged, and I talked to her last year. She's still doing great. And this is why I do this, because as a physician, I see so much pain and suffering on one side and so much health and vitality on the other, which is largely a result of the choices people make. So I just encourage you all to continue to make choices that will result in having a better life and a better future for yourself, for health and success. So that's it, Chef AJ. I hope that was helpful for
That was
you and
great.
your team. Um, what questions do we have?
So I have a few that were sent in and I have several that have been posted, but first I want to ask you that talk that you have on YouTube. I'm trying to search and find it. What channel is it on? Or can you send me the link and I'll add it to the show notes?
Okay, sure. If you people go to YouTube and search Robert Breakey, MD, it's the one that says Rochester Lifestyle Medicine.
Okay,
It is the there's several on there, but that's the one that's my kind of basic talk. And I go into more detail about what makes a health food health supporting. I'll
perfect.
see if I can find it here. You can put it
I
in.
actually found it. I didn't know
You
that
found
was
it?
one,
Okay.
so I'll
Okay.
add that to the
Good.
show notes in the chat after I ask you this first question that was sent in by Deborah. I'm glad you touched on alcohol. She says, I use a smart scale and found out that my body fat, subcutaneous fat, fat mass are high or too high, and my BMR is low. All other messages like bone mass, protein, water weight, muscle mass, skeletal muscle are good. What can I do with this information? What are the best ways to turn those fat measures around? My weight and BMI are fine. I am whole food plant-based, oil-free, mostly FSS-free, with just occasional alcoholic drinks, 5 a month maximum.
Uh, yes. Wow. First of all, good for you. The average American only gets 11% of their calories from whole plant foods, and it sounds like you're more in the 90% plus range, which is great. Um, the alcohol is a fine-tuning thing. You're way less than many people do, but continue to work on that as a fine-tuning measure. I'm glad you mentioned too about the SOS. We call that sort of salt, oil, sugar. And Dr. Clapper likes to talk about SOS free. And I know, Chef AJ, that's one of your big things too, is learning to cook without oil because it is so calorie dense. It's pro-inflammatory. It's really taking the parts of the plant or it's an extracted, isolated nutrient without the goodness that goes with it. So good. First of all, good for you. Since you're doing all that, I mean, there is a certain amount of body fat that we all have. I mean, I've always been slender. And if you're doing all that, your BMI is normal and it shows a little bit of subcutaneous fat, that's okay. That's normal. We all have a certain amount of storage that historically helped our ancestors through times of famine or when crops were low or otherwise. No, that's different than visceral fat, which is inside the liver and other. But that's not the kind that it sounds like you have. That comes more once our body fills up our total stores. People get overweight or obese, and then it starts going to the liver, the pancreas, the heart, the muscles, with disastrous effects as a result. But really, the bottom line for yourself is you've got good bone structure, muscle mass, BMI, a little bit of subcutaneous fat. Continue to do what you're doing. Work on fine tuning with the alcohol as you can, but don't worry about it. You're doing great.
Thank you. So this question is from Tammy, and she said that you're an amazing advocate for a healthy lifestyle, and she too read Diet for a Small Planet in 1985 when she went vegetarian. She said you did an interview with Vegan Linked, and at the 4-minute 33-second mark, you show a paper that says Dr. Bob's 8 Keys to Health and Success. Coincidentally, the name of today's
Hey,
presentation. Is it possible that this resource can be made available as a download for those who are interested?
oh, sure. I can send that to you, Chef JJ. There's nothing. Um, I wrote it, but it's not proprietary, and I'm glad to share it. So if I email that to you, will you be able to post it somewhere?
I think we can. I think there's a way to
Okay.
add it to the show notes. And
Okay.
what I did is right when you said it, what I did is I just took a screenshot.
Oh,
So
yes, yes.
that's kind of how I did it. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. All right, let's see. Okay, I've got some questions now from the chat, so we'll start with those. This one is from Jay. Do you believe in taking supplements?
Absolutely, but very limited. I think I mentioned during the beginning that vitamin B12 is a critical supplement for everybody who's plant-based and is even a good idea for anybody over 50, even if they eat animal foods. It turns out B12 is not made by plants or animals, it's made by bacteria. And now that we chlorinate our water and we wash our food, we don't get as many of those B12 forming bacteria in our intestines, and we just need to take a reliable source. People who eat meat, dairy, and eggs get a certain amount from the animal muscle and they're eating off the ground, so they're getting those bacteria. But again, you don't want to package your B12 with a bunch of saturated fat and pro-inflammatory animal proteins and environmental contaminants. Just take a B12 supplement. Recommendations vary between 100 and 500 micrograms a day for people under 65 and 1,000 micrograms a day for people over 65. So that's one critical one, without a doubt. The next ones are more in the maybe category, and the second one is vitamin D, as in David. And it's not really a vitamin at all. It's a hormone caused by or formed when we get our skins exposed to sunlight. Many of us, like in Michigan, have 243 cloudy days a year. They happen to be sunny, but we don't get it near as much as you do there in California. You're in California, right?
Yeah. I'm in Northern California, so
They don't get near as much as you do. So we may well need to just take a vitamin D supplement. Probably 2,000 units a day is a good general marker for people, unless they're getting good sun exposure. If there's a doubt, your doctor can do a blood test. Over 30 is a good baseline minimum. Probably between 50 and 80 is better. And some people have a hard time absorbing it and need a little higher, like 4,000 units. Don't take more than 5,000 units a day. You can get vitamin D toxicity if you overdo it. But that's a second one. It's a common recommendation. The third is kind of shifting more towards, this is the DHA, EPA, which are the long chain omega-3 fatty acids. Now, I do recommend everybody get ground flaxseed, also contained in hemp, walnut, and chia seeds, to get the omega-3 fatty acids. But the longer chain ones are also essential. And some people have a trouble converting the short chain to the long chain. Again, there's been some controversial. Some experts say, no, you don't need that, just eat your flax. Others say, yes, you definitely need this. I won't mention any names. And lately, there's been sort of more of a shift to people saying, hey, well, it's worth an insurance to take 250 to 500 milligrams a day of what's called DHA EPA. But important that it's from an algae-based vegan source. If you just look up DHA EPA, you'll probably get fish oil, and that's got a lot of mercury and other environmental contaminants, cholesterol, and fish fat along with it. So yes, a little DHA EPA with it. After that, save your money. All these supplement manufacturers with multivitamins, calcium, probiotics, selenium, host of different things, K2, others, you really don't need them. Save your money and get your nutrients from food the way nature intended it. So
right.
answer to his question, yes, but just a few.
Thank you. This question, it was sent in by Brenda. My recent blood work showed the 25 vitamin D levels to be 56. I'm taking 6,000 international units daily to achieve that. I'm 63. Prior to taking the supplement, my range was 20 to 30. My current practitioner says the ideal range is 70 to 100. Is it necessary to take high levels of vitamin D, and is K2 needed when you take it?
So let's see, a few questions there. Your level of 53 is fine. I know some say 70 to 100 is even better, but you do risk getting it too much, and you're spending more money on things that, in my research, isn't really necessary. Some are now saying to kind of back off on vitamin D and just target more like 30, or to get some sunshine. You have to be careful not to get too much sun and get melanoma or skin cancers in the process. Still use your sunscreen if you're going to be out for a time. But some sunshine without burning is actually good for you to make some vitamin D the natural way. But short answer to your question, 6,000 is already a good size dose. Your level of 53 is good. Again, I'm not saying your practitioner is wrong. There's a camp that's saying a little more is better, but personally, I don't think you need it.
Well, she's saying that she lives in Arizona where it's too hot to walk later in the day, and she walks an hour every day before 7:30 a.m. Is that enough sun exposure?
Oh, probably not. The sun's very low in the sky, and you're going to get some that way. But the proof is in the pudding. If you were doing that before you took vitamin D and your levels were, what would you say, 20 something?
It was
Uh,
20, yeah, before taking the vitamin
yeah,
D, they were 20
yeah,
to 30. With the vitamin D, they're
53.
yeah,
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 six. I'm getting her age and her thing mixed
yeah,
up. She said
yeah.
her CMP and CBC were fine.
Okay. No, that's good. She wasn't getting what she was needing from just the sun in Arizona because
Yeah, it
she
was
was a good
56. Her
hydrant.
recent levels were 56.
Perfect. That's a good level. Yeah, she's did 6,000 a day, plus whatever sun she's getting is adding up to just right for her.
Perfect. Thank you. Krista says, do you know any lifestyle medicine physicians in North Carolina, the Charlotte area?
Oh, I'm sure there are some. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine has now grown to membership of thousands. And there's a couple good plant-based physician sites. One is PCRM.org, that's Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.org, and go to their physician finder and just search your zip code or your town, and they'll find ones that might be oriented towards the way we're thinking here. And the other is through the Plantition Project. You mentioned our Chef AJ. That's out more in your neck of the woods, and they have a physician finder on there too. Um, the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, you can ask or look for that certification. Not essential to be a lifestyle medicine physician, but a good clue that at least that provider has studied and incorporated the kind of principles that we're talking about here in my 8 keys. So I don't personally know anybody in Charlotte, but I'm sure there are several, and those will give you some resources to help track them down.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Thank you for the questions, everyone. I appreciate them. This is from Susanna. She said, when you read the book from Frances Moore Lapay, were you able to switch your family to a plant-based diet? And if so, how easy or how hard was it?
Wow, good question. At the time I was in medical school, I was on my own. I didn't have anybody I was living with. Had to do because I was just there. But I shared the book with my brothers. I have three brothers. They were inspired. I shared animal liberation, and all four of us became vegetarian at the same time. So I guess the answer is yes. I was able to inspire them. Our mom and dad were quite skeptical at the time and never quite made the transition, but all four of us brothers did. Um, to this day, 3 out of 4 of us have maintained the plant-based lifestyle, and that I think is one of the keys. Is that I guess one thing I should mention this, and I'm sure you emphasize this too, Chef AJ. As you learn this information, don't go and hit people over the head with it. It's not worth losing friends and family. People have different views and belief systems, understandings. They've read other info. Sometimes even their own preferences or lifestyle gets in the way of them even wanting to learn about this. But the way to do it is to inspire them with your own experience. As people see you feeling better, vital, I mean, I'll be 70 next year and I still feel 40. As they see that, they're like, wow, what are you doing? And that gives you an opening to share, hey, for me, this is what's working. I'll say, well, where are some resources on that? As opposed to trying to make them. But a very common problem is this questioner implies is that people understand this, they start learning, and then they go into a family or an environment where it may be even overtly hostile. Like, what are you doing? You're going to die. I'm not doing that. I'm not cooking you 2 meals, or you got to make me what I like. And you do need to find that balance. Again, don't lose friends and family over this. Do what works for you, and you'll find ways to still make it work. And commonly, what we see is that people will not make two different meals, but one that's amendable. If you make a vegetable stir fry, and again, Chef AJ, here's your your expertise, and then put a little chicken on the side for those that want that, some tofu on the side for those that want that. And commonly, what you'll find is over time, people are saying, "Oh, this tastes just as good," or they'll start trying it or doing it. so that you can live in that sort of mixed household and still be happy, friendly with each other. I know, Chef AJ, I'm sure you deal with this question all the time. Any thoughts or comments for this person?
Um, you know, she is doing a great job. She has 8 children. So,
Oh,
you know, I always just, it's remark on how well she's doing. She's kind of a people pleaser. I know her personally, and so she's never really put her foot down to have a completely clean environment. And my feeling is that if that they don't they I see we're different personalities. I'm like, well, why do they get a say? But that's we all have different, I'm what Dr. Doug Lyle would call more disagreeable. So, whatever works for her, and it seems to be working. She has like a more gentle approach, and I have more of a hit you over the hammer approach.
yes,
Yeah.
uh, I know it when especially when people have toddlers, it's like, no, they won't eat it. Like, wait a minute, who's the decider here? Did they go shopping and do the cooking, or do you? So it does get harder when they're teenagers. That's why you want to start early and from the beginning. But no, both of my daughters, you saw in the picture, have been vegetarian all their lives, and we started them out. And that's all they knew. They like it that way. Um, uh, as you're transitioning, though, if you've got kids as you're learning this, you do need to find ways to involve them, and a part of that is to get them involved. I like taking the grandkids and making smoothies, and even if it's got some greens in there, if they helped make it, they're tasting it like or the whole wheat blueberry pancakes made with soy milk and some lemon zest. You can make it tasty and healthy, and when they're involved in helping make it, they'll like it better. So yeah, bring your kids along with you. But it is also true, especially at a younger age, that parents decide what to eat and kids decide how much.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Hers, I think, are older. So anyway,
Yeah.
here's one from Jewel. She says, is there some source that shows connection to dairy bovine leukemia to humans getting leukemia? How much worse or dangerous is raw milk? Well, Dr. Clapper did a whole show on that exact topic. The answer is a resounding yes, but I'll see what you have to say.
Um, So yes, the bovine leukemia virus. There's some evidence that it may be related to human leukemias too. And Dr. Greger in his book How Not to Die covers the blood cancers, that is leukemia, lymphoma, and myeloma in particular in a whole chapter. So a whole food plant-based approach significantly decreases the risk of those blood and lymphatic cancers. And dairy is just one of the worst. If you remember the scene in Forks Over Knives, where T. Colin Campbell talks about his studies on rats and how you could turn off and on liver cancer just by changing the amount of casein, which is one of the main dairy proteins, from 5% of their diet to 20%. Um, and he then went on to do population studies in the China study on humans to show the same kind of effect, that the more dairy in the diet, the more cancers in total. The biggest ones we know are most correlated are breast and prostate cancer, but leukemia and lymphomas also seem related to that. And partly that's due to the IGF-1, which is a hormone stimulated by all animal proteins, whether it's eggs, dairy, or meat. This hormone is like kerosene on a fire to a cancer cell. Says grow, divide faster, develop more blood vessels, spread, do your thing. So they love IGF-1. And this growth hormone comes in the presence of animal protein for good reason. The only time we're meant to have animal protein in our life is right after we're born, mother's milk. That's the ideal food for infants, and we triple our birth weight in the first year. The IGF-1 helps to accomplish that. It's a growth hormone. When we continue to have milk from any species after that grow, divide, go effect increases the risk of several cancers. As far as whether there's 3 stages to cancer. One is the initiation stage, which is where we see bovine leukemia virus in breast cancer because we see it stitched into the DNA. The next is the promotion stage, and the next is the spread. Leukemia is a little different because it's a blood cancer. So by definition, by the time it comes, it's already spread. It's all over the body. So the first two stages are critical. Whether bovine leukemia virus is part of the initiation, I haven't seen studies on that. Maybe, not from Dr. Clapper's work, but I can definitely say that with respect to the promotion stage and the IGF-1, that dairy proteins are some of the worst. I don't know, did Michael say anything about that, whether it was direct or promotion?
The show was a while ago, but that was
okay.
The whole topic was about that humans can get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Or maybe it was even Dr. McDougall's. When you've done 4,000 shows, it's hard to
I
remember
know.
single one. But I will
Yes.
tell you this, as you answer the next question, I will search and I will put that link in for people that want to see it.
The question about raw milk too is
is raw milk dangerous or is it worse?
Any milk is dangerous. I mean, it's not human food. So if you think about what it does, and the raw milk would have a greater chance of having more of the bovine leukemia virus survive, because some of them would be killed by pasteurization, but not to mention other contaminants, other infectious disease that could come from raw milk. So this idea that, again, milk is a totally unnatural food, whether it's raw or pasteurized. So both are dangerous, and I would avoid both. Is it worse than regular milk? In some ways, yes, because the potential for infectious disease as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. And I will look for that video as you answer this next question from Ron. I have listened a lot to Casey and Callie Means. Do you agree or disagree with them or have no opinion? And you might want to say who they are, because I don't know.
Casey, who? How's the last name?
Casey and Callie Means.
MEANS?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with their work. Sorry. So hard to tell if I agree or disagree. I don't know. Maybe they can clarify if there are components of what they're recommending.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, if they recommend a whole food, plant-based, unprocessed diet, then I would agree with them. And if maybe they have more clarity.
Yep, thank you. And I stand corrected. It was Dr. McDougall about 6 months ago that did a talk called "How Dangerous is the Bovine Leukemia Virus?" And I will post that link. And he did talk about how humans can get it.
Okay.
Yep.
Boy, I just want to give a tribute to Dr. McDougall.
Yeah.
What a great pioneer and a leader in the field. He was actually one of my early mentors. When I started my practice in 1985, I didn't have many patients. So I worked at urgent care. And at our local hospital, I met a nurse there. We started talking nutrition, and we ate similarly. And she said, "Well, you should read my brother's book." And I'm like, "Your brother? Who's that?" He said, "Well, John McDougall." And I had heard of him. It was 1985. He had just come out with the McDougall plan. Well, I got that from the bookstore. That's back before you entered that. And I read it, and I'm like, yes, here's someone who's got an evidence-based approach to just what I've been reading, thinking, learning for the last 7 years. He's from Michigan, originally from Canton. Yeah. So I became friends with his sister. He came over to our house for dinner. I've seen him at several conferences. And again, I'm sure as most people know, in May, he unfortunately passed away, but not until leaving a major legacy of health, nutrition, and wellness, in part through providers like me and thousands of others who he has inspired. So thank you, Dr. McDougall, for all that you did for the cause.
Yeah, we miss him terribly. Thank you. So Jules said somebody tried to tell her that their doctor said they're eating too much fiber. Is it possible to eat too much fiber?
So short answer, yes. If you were using fiber supplements like too much Metamucil and things, these do not nourish your microbiome because the psyllium husk's in there. But when it comes from whole food, no, not possible. You're getting it the way nature intended, and foods that are naturally high in fiber are also high in nutrition, plant-based proteins, good vitamins and phytonutrients. Now, where that may come from is that when many people transition from the very low fiber American diet to a high fiber diet, the microbiome that digests many of those fibers are not currently present because you haven't been feeding them. They don't show up. So when that fiber goes in, it can ferment, cause gas, bloating, either diarrhea or even constipation, make them not feel well. So maybe they tried to transition too quickly, and their doctor said, "Oh, you're eating too much fiber." That doesn't mean they need to permanently cut down on fiber. They just need to go more gradual. They need to feed their microbiome. And Dr. Will Bolshewitz, has he been on your show? He's awesome.
Oh, yes, several times. Yep.
Yeah, he talks about just start slow, go gradual, and it may be as little as 1 teaspoon of canned lentils per day, and then those bacteria that eat those nutrients, those fibers in the lentils, will start to say, "Oh, thank you for feeding me," and they'll start to grow. They'll then help with the digestion of that and other resistant starches, and then you'll be able to tolerate it. So I wouldn't say it's possible if you're eating real food to get too much fiber in the long run. In the short run, maybe that's what his or her doctor meant, is that you went too quickly, or maybe uh, maybe their doctor thinks that it really is possible to get too much fiber in the diet from food, and that's not right. Our ancestors ate 100 plus grams a day. We could tell this by analyzing fossilized poop from our paleo ancestors. We are severely fiber deficient. And I don't want anybody going away with the idea that, "Oh no, I'm going to get fiber overdose."
Great. Thank you. So you talked about how to find a physician that was plant-based, but Janine said any suggestions on how to find a functional medicine doctor? I know there's one that used to be on the show quite a bit, Dr. Sunil Pai, and he does virtual, but I don't know any other than that.
Yeah, no, I'm not that as much familiar with that field or area. I'm sure there are similar kind of find it sources through there. Dr. Mark Hyman at the Cleveland Clinic and uh, Dr. Heinrich, I think in Arizona. There's groups of folks, so I'm sure they'd be able to find some. But I'm sorry, I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with
not your expertise.
Yeah,
Pat would
that's
like
right.
to know if your slides are available. She or he loves this.
Oh, okay. Um, it's a huge file. Probably the best way to go is to watch your rerun, right? You're recording this,
Oh
and
yeah, it's live, but it's also recorded.
yeah, they can go back through and take screenshots as
Yep.
desired.
Thank you.
I love when people share my work and share the message of health and vitality.
Thank you. And you've been on the show, I think, at least 2 times before, so they can watch. I'll link to those episodes as well. So
Okay, yes.
here's $1 million question. Nancy wants to know, are there any cures or remedies for the common cold?
Oh, your common cold. There's over 100 different cold viruses, and we're all going to get various of them through life. It's part of life, and I actually see it as part of practice-free immune system. When I get a cold, I see it as getting some exercise for my immune system so that it'll be able to fight the big one when it comes along. So first step is let colds be okay in a sense. Once you've had one, you never get that exact same one again. So that's why kids get more adult colds than adults, because they're open field for them. And once you've had it, you don't get that same one. Unfortunately, there are several others to go around. And your goal should be to kind of minimize the effects of the cold. And that's a strong immune system. So absolutely, foods that are high in antioxidants, contain large amounts of phytonutrients and are high in fiber that help your bowel bacteria to form short chain fatty acids, enhance your immune function, and lower your inflammation, and give you a less severe cold, so to speak, less chance of complications like ear infections or sinusitis, pneumonia are all common complication, not common, but potential complications of the common cold. So yes, eat healthy. Exercise also plays a good role. It turns out when our ancestors had to run away from a saber-toothed tiger, they'd commonly get cut and scraped by bushes and things. And so their white cell count, their natural killer cells would enhance with exercise. You can stimulate that by getting that 150 to ideally 300 minutes a week of exercise. If you do, or when you do come down with the cold anyway, vitamin C doesn't seem to work, but there's some evidence that zinc may help. either zinc lozenges 4 times a day, or even just taking 75 milligrams of zinc as a tablet to help decrease the severity and amount of cold. Another study that Dr. Breakey reported on is that 2 kiwi a day seem to shorten the duration and severity of a cold. Those little fuzzy brown fruits with the green inside seem to help for that. That study was done out of New Zealand, where they produced the majority of the kiwis. Maybe you do the same study on strawberries or berries. Any kind of healthy fruits rich in phytonutrients are likely to also help you to reduce the severity of the cold. And then the other critical thing is to strictly avoid dairy products when you've got a cold. The mucus forming and the pro-inflammatory components of not only the milk proteins but sugars exacerbate the symptoms. And I've had a number of people just say, wow, my cold just got so much more tolerable when I stopped eating cheese while I had it. And then finally, drink plenty of water. But not a lot else. There's a lot of home remedies and other things. There may be some benefit from certain teas, but I guess my main messages are: eat healthy to build your resilience. When you do get it, it won't be too bad. Live with it, let it give you some exercise for your immune system, and colds are part of life.
Great, thank you. Colleen says, I'm whole food plant-based and 98% salt-free and 100% oil and sugar-free. My subcutaneous fat is extremely low. How can I increase it? Does she need to increase it?
No, she's like you and I. You don't need a lot of subcutaneous fat. You do need to eat fairly regular. We don't have a lot of reserves, but that's okay. And you don't want to just kind of build and grow fat. If you want to gain weight, strength, resilience,
Get muscle instead.
Work out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was always a slender little kid. My dad was a doctor. I said, Dad, how can I gain weight? He got some weights for us. He said, lift. Like, you don't want to just develop a belly. If you want to gain weight, you want lean body weight. That also helps to build stronger bones and decreases risk of osteoporosis later in life. So there's a common misunderstanding that, if eating too much fat makes you overweight, and I want to gain weight, maybe I should eat lots of fat. No, your body makes all the fats it needs, with the exception of those essential fatty acids, the ground flax, the DHA, EPA. And at the same time, you can afford to eat more healthy fatty foods, nuts and seeds, avocado, starchy vegetables, sweet potatoes, beans. Eat lots. If you do feel like you're just not, and this, I guess this is another caution. Let's mention our couple of cautions here. When you go to plant-based, you need to eat more. Remember, we talked about how animal foods are 10 times more calorie dense than plant foods. So if you just replace that chicken with an equal size of vegetable, that's only 1/10 the calories. You're going to be starving. You can literally, you need to get 2 or 3 plates of those vegetables and a side of fruit and some extra beans. So make sure to include more calorie dense plant foods and beans and whole grains, some nuts and seeds, and you can afford to eat more. So if you want to gain some weight, eat more of the right things.
Thank you. I'll hop over to Instagram, where a live viewer is asking, what about flour? Is whole wheat okay? Is unbleached okay?
Yeah, great question. There's a continuum of processing. So wheat berries, you can actually just get wheat berries and boil them up and eat them, just like you can eat oats or bulgur wheat. Then the next step would be to grind that into wheat flour. And it's still got it's the same actual ingredient, one ingredient. It's just whole wheat, but it's ground. The next step is you process it into white flour, and then it becomes unrecognizable just as the starch. So that continuum, the closer you are to the real food. Oats are another example. You've got steel cut oats, you've got the oat groats, the steel cut oats, the quick cooking steel cut oats, the rolled oats, and then the oat flour. And as you go down that line, it's minimal processing. It's still the same food, but it does increase the glycemic index because and it also decreases the amount that goes to your microbiome. So think of it this way: you're chewing those wheat berries, and you may get millimeter-sized particles that go through your teeth and you swallow. The enzymes in your digestive system start working on that. A millimeter seems pretty small, but if you're a microscopic enzyme, it's like a little flea trying to attack a basketball. That can't get all the way through that piece of food until it gets to the intestines, and then that helps nourish the microbiome, which is a good thing. In contrast, if you grind it into micron-sized particles in the form of flour, even if it's whole wheat flour, all of that gets digested. You get all of it more quickly, so it creates an insulin surge, which can cause increased fat storage, and so you're getting a higher glycemic index, increasing and then decreasing the amount gets to your microbiome. So not horrible, especially if you're normal weight, to have some flour foods. But Chef AJ, you do this in a lot of your recipes too, is the less processed, the better. I know, any comments on that from your perspective?
Well, yeah, like you say, I always call her doctor, but Brenda Davis talks about the hierarchy of grains, and there's a difference between eating rice and eating a rice cake and eating rice flour. So the wholer, the better.
Right. Right.
And especially because my focus for years has been on weight loss, and the less processed, the better it is for weight loss. The more processed, the worse it is for weight loss, because processing increases calorie density.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, in general, like I like Dr. Greger's kind of two-phase look at it. One is that processed foods, that unprocessed means nothing good taken away and nothing bad added. And the second stage is, well, how much is it ground, or it's nothing like peanut butter. If it's just peanuts, doesn't have anything bad added and doesn't have anything good taken away. But again, those submicron sized pieces of peanut are all absorbed as opposed to not all of them. So it's that two-stage look at it. There's processing by adding fat, salt, and sugar, or taking away fiber like white bread with added sugar. And then there's processing by grinding or pulverizing. And that's a second phase of looking at it. Again, none of this is all or nothing. We don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. And interestingly, pasta, even white pasta, has a lower glycemic index than white bread. It's just kind of packed tighter, so it's not as much. If you find yourself at a restaurant, that's all there is. Don't beat yourself up. Have the just make sure they're not egg noodles.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm guessing she's asking about her labs here because she posts Na, well, I guess that's sodium 131, potassium K 6.7, says she just eats plants, potatoes, white and sweet, whole grains, few nuts, avocado, no oil, smidge of salt every once in a while, lots of kale, arugula, and spinach. So are those numbers good or bad that she's posting?
Say again, sodium 131.
Sodium 131 and K 6.7. I guess that's potassium.
The sodium level of 131 is slightly low, but that's not bad. She may want to look at, did she drink too much water before the blood test to dilute the sodium that's in her system. You don't need to eat extra sodium or salt. You get all you need from food. The potassium 6.7, I'm not sure that's right. That's dangerously high. That she would need to go to the emergency room. So somehow we've got a challenge in communication here. The usual range of potassium would be up to 5.5, and 6.7 is way too high. That doesn't mean she's eating too much potassium. It means there's most likely there's a lab.
Yeah, no, that's what she posted in the chat. I'm reading it myself. Yeah.
Okay. So the most common cause for that is that potassium is much higher concentration inside the red blood cells. And sometimes we get what's called a traumatic draw. As the blood is flowing out through the needle, some of the red blood cells open, and it makes a what's called a factitious elevation of potassium level. So when we see someone like that and we retest it, it commonly comes back normal because they just had an elevation. but it's not because you're eating too much potassium. Your kidneys are good at balancing your potassium level. They have to be. Serum potassium level has to be very carefully monitored and balanced in between. So I don't know. She should talk to her doctor, but reassure her it's not because she's eating too many sweet potatoes.
Thank you. So on Facebook, Stephanie says, is there any advice for severe RA? I went vegan, but every joint hurt more than I can handle. Dr. Brooke Goldner has a regular slot on the show, the fourth Monday of the month, and that might be a resource for her.
Yeah, absolutely. Brooke Goldner is great in this regard. Her book, Goodbye Lupus, and her follow-up book, Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, has helped thousands of people who are already plant-based, but still having challenge through her hypernutrition process, including plenty of ground flax seeds and lots and lots of greens. So, no, she should look up, it's goodbyelupus.com. Dr. Brooke Goldner out of Texas, and I'm sure she's got some recordings on your show also. But yeah,
Absolutely. And all her classes are free this month until October 14th at goodbyelupus.com.
Perfect, perfect. Chef AJ, I probably got time for
Yeah,
about
no,
one or two more questions.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, here, easy one. Nancy says, are there any benefits for eating raw versus cooked?
There are pros and cons to each. Certain foods are better eaten raw, and certainly you get some certain healthy bacteria that contribute to your microbiome from raw foods. Certain nutrients are better, like vitamin C can be denatured or deactivated by cooking. So on the other side of the coin, you would never eat raw beans and raw lentils. Uh, they're not only unpalatable, but they contain lectins that you don't want to eat unless they're cooked. So the answer is to eat both. There, some nutrients, even in vegetables like lycopene in tomatoes, are better available and better absorbed when they're cooked. So tomato sauces and cooked tomatoes have a better availability of the phytonutrient lycopene. So it's a little bit of a false dichotomy. Eat both. There are some people that survive well on just raw food diets, mostly fruits and nuts, and that's okay. You can do that. For millions of years, many of our ancestors did that. And yet, as we tamed fire a few million years ago and learned how to better extract the nutrients in beans and whole grains, in particular, and certain vegetables even better, you can certainly take advantage of that. And some people use that against us and say, oh, that means beans are unnatural. If you had to cook them and we only developed tamed fire 2 million years ago, how can you say that? Well, the answer, of course, is that beans are really just seeds. And we've been eating seeds for all of human evolution. So seeds, nuts, beans, and whole grains are all the same thing. They are nature's little package of a pre-plant. This is everything that plant needs to get going. And yeah, at first we learned how to harness walnuts and hickory nuts and others for our use. Later, seeds, we learned to kind of extract those. And now, through the magic of cooking, we have learned how to get the beneficial nutrients from whole grains and beans too. So eat both, eat all of the above.
Great. Okay, so last question from Ellen. What is your sense of fiber for people who've had most of their rectum removed to colorectal cancer?
The rectum is the last part of the colon, so I assume she means most of the colon removed. Um, you still want to eat healthy foods which naturally contain fiber. The part of the colon that's left, the part of the small intestine that gets inhabited with a certain amount of microbiome still benefit from the health effects of fiber. It's not as much, of course, because the colon is there as the main domain for most of the microbiome. But still, it's fine to and good to eat healthy fiber foods, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, and beans, even after you've had a partial or most colectomy. Some people have a colostomy bag. They have to be a little careful about what they eat to prevent diarrhea or constipation. Um, Work with see if you can find a good plant-based nutritionist to help find that balance. But no, you still want to get fiber even in that case.
Great. Dr. Breakey, this was so nice catching up with you. I hope it won't be 2 years again before you come back. And
Okay.
congratulations on the cruise. If anybody wants to see Dr. Breakey in person, I think there's a few more rooms left on the Holistic Holiday at Sea.
They are selling out, I hear, but we'll look
Yeah.
forward to seeing any of you there who make it. Come find me. And thank you again, Chef AJ. Your work is awesome. It's great to see you still
I
spreading.
still can't get that whatever that thing you were on. That was impressive.
Oh.
What is that thing, that water thing you did? I've never seen that before.
You know, I've got a video of it too. It doesn't always work on the slideshow, but next time I'm on, I'll see if I can
Oh
get
my
it to work
God.
with me actually holding the GoPro of myself 10
It
feet in the air.
sounds terribly scary
Yeah.
and a little bit dangerous as
It
well.
was adventure. I loved it. You got to wear a helmet because, yeah, if you go crashing down, you get in trouble. But I did it again down in St. Kitts, and the guy said, "Wow, for an old guy, you stayed up longer and did better than anybody we've seen." So, yeah, thank you. Go forth and enjoy adventure, whatever swings you. And thanks again for having me on your show, and good luck to all of your members and participants who are looking for a better life.
What a risk taker you are. Thanks, Dr. Breakey. Thanks all of you
Thank
for
you.
watching another episode of Chef AJ and Friends. Please come back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time for Moving Medicine Forwards. Dr. Michael Clapper and Dr. Zach Burns. They're going to be talking about the diets of carnivore and keto and vegan and let you decide which is best. Take care, everybody.